Academics is very important. Teaching, learning is very important for any child. And learning is a lifelong process, is what I believe. But when it is a child who has a diagnosis of autism, sometimes the academic learning may be a little different than what it is for any other child. The focus is on functional academics more than just reading and writing on a paper. And I think that's true for any child. But functional academics is the main aim that is very important. This is something that we're going to be discussing in our masterclass, which is happening on 15th, 16th, and 17th of September 2023. Do join the masterclass to learn how to make academics fun so that your kids enjoy, how to make it holistic. That's what we'll be doing in the masterclass. If you're watching this video after that date has passed away, the recordings of the masterclass are available on our website, khushi.net.in. That's khushi.net.in. So you can. One parent whose child has a diagnosis of autism is enrolling her son to a regular school. And she wanted to know what happens, how kids improve, what to expect, what not to expect in that academic journey. I have had a lot of parents who I've interviewed, and I've tried to combine them all, presenting the shades of the spectrum. A child who's not able to cope in a regular school, to a child who's topped the class, to a child who's like really good. So it's a big spectrum, some kids who couldn't do very well in that regular mainstream setup, but they did very well still, even after they completed their academics through NIOS, they still are doing well. It's just that they didn't follow the path of that regular schooling, that every child pursues. So I wanted to share this mix of views from parents, a psychologist, from me as an occupational therapist, from a lawyer, about what are the rules, what are the rights for a children who have special needs. So I present to you this little shades of autism and how the learning journey is for many kids.
Initial hurdles. Well, so far as schooling is concerned, we tried to put him into a regular school, but he was in a regular school for 2 years, and then the principal called us and she said that she really didn't think that this child could cope up with the regular curriculum. So then we changed him over to a special school. He was probably 4 or 5 years old when children go from junior KG to senior KG, because some amount of writing and teaching comes in senior KG, and there was no way he could keep up with the class. So then they told us that it was time to shift him to a special school, and that was very right actually.
A young person with special needs is not going to go down the path of a traditional academic subject. You would know it. Yeah, you would know it. If somebody is struggling with the basic numeracy and literacy, by the time he's, say, 12, 14 years old, you would know that there is no point in pursuing an academic path, and then you should start really thinking about where the potential lies. If you're doing open schooling just for the heck of it and pushing the child and wasting precious 4 years on barely scrapping through a secondary qualification, it's really not worth it.
कबीर ने 10th स्टैंडर्ड अपने स्कूल को टॉप किया. क्या आपको पता था कि वो कर लेगा? क्योंकि आई एम श्योर आपको पता होगा कि वो जितनी मेहनत डाल रहा था, क्या कबीर ने ये सोचा था कि उसको ये करना है, या ये अपने आप हो गया?
हमने मेहनत करी अपने लिए. हमने मेहनत इसलिए नहीं करी कि हमें किसी को कुछ प्रूव करना है. ओके, दिस इज वेरी टेंस. ये रिजल्ट टॉप करा, इट इज फाइन. आज भी वो जो अंदर बैठा पढ़ रहा है, वो अपने लिए कर रहा है. दैट इज व्हाट मैटर्स. फर्स्ट आना, सेकंड आना, हमने कभी उसके लिए टारगेट्स नहीं रखे. हमने कभी ये नहीं कहा कि तेरे को फर्स्ट आना है. तेरे को वो करना है व्हाट यू वांट टू बी गुड एट. to be good at, what you need to do, you need to see that. तो हमने कभी ये नहीं बोला कि इससे नीचे नहीं आना चाहिए. कितनी बार वो गिरा भी है, ऐसा नहीं कि हमेशा परफेक्ट रहा है, लेकिन उसने उससे कुछ सीख कर ही वो बेटर करा नेक्स्ट टाइम.
Like any other parent, I went the same path. When Nishant was 3, he went to a Montessori school, and later on he went to another school till he was in 3rd grade, and in the US also he went to regular school. So many of us have a trust towards the mainstream school because that is what we know as school. So we want our child somewhere to be in the mainstream school environment. And in Nishant's case, he was hyperlexic and he could read, and even though he couldn't write, he could put together spellings. He showed, he could look at certain numbers and do the math manipulation, and his answers were always 100% correct. So somewhere it pushed me towards the academic stream. So till grade 5, I would say, I was in that bandwagon of pushing him towards academic, and he was also not totally resisting it at that point. It was when he was 11 or 12 that he started resisting
Okay.
that kind of work. So there was this period from when he was 11 to when he was 14 where it was a struggle, because I was trying to push something down his throat and he was not really interested in it anymore. Maybe the content was becoming more and more dry. So, so if you took history or civics or these kind of topics, they were things that he really resisted, he didn't want to learn. If it was something that he loves nature, so it was to do with science or, biology or nutrition, these are topics he would very willingly sit, and even today that is what he likes to read about or write about. So while I would, my recommendation is 2 things. One is, he luckily went to a Montessori school where he could have a lot of sensorial exploration. But suppose he was in a regular preschool where they go the ABC way, where they go the academic way, I think it would have been very difficult for him. He did not have the skills to cope up with that. So
that we want our kids to go in a regular school, but the aim is to understand why is it that we want them to do. We want them to go to a school so that he can learn. He can be with other kids of his age and he can, play with them. He could interact with them. He would learn to have that routine of getting up, sitting in the bus, going to school, taking care of his belongings, putting his tiffin into the bag, taking it out when the teacher asks for, learning to take a lot of group instructions. So there are a lot of things that we are wanting in our kids. If these are the kinds of things that you're thinking of for your child, amazing. But if your aim is that he just goes to a regular school, even if it is just with a shadow teacher, and even if he's secluded and if he's kept on to one side, then I think you need to consider and think whether it is the right
ध्यान नहीं था कि ये पढ़ाई क्या करे. सिर्फ पेरेंट टीचर मीटिंग में मैं पूछती थी इसका बिहेवियर कैसा है, मुझे बस वही बताओ, मुझे और कुछ नहीं पूछना. तो मैम हाँ ये जब बात करता है ना बंद ही नहीं करता, ये कोई दूसरा बच्चा जवाब देता है बोलता है व्हाट इज दिस आंसर यू आर गिविंग, रॉन्ग आंसर, यू हैव नो ब्रेन्स, यू आर डम्ब. तो वो एक सोशल एटिकेट क्या होता है, कहाँ पे बोलना, क्या करना, तो वो मुझे इश्यूज आते थे. बट दिस सेम चाइल्ड एंड द स्कूल, आई मस्ट टेल यू, मेड हिम अ हेड बॉय इन ग्रेड 10. इसमें वो लीडरशिप क्वालिटी आई, बुलिंग के थ्रू गया, और 10th में जब ये हेड बॉय बना तो मैंने कहा शायद तुक्का लग गया, शायद कुछ सिंपैथी वोट्स मिले या टीचर्स को ऐसा लगा, क्योंकि टीचर्स ने मुझे फोन करके बोला कि मैम हम कह रहे हैं आयुष को तू अप्लाई कर, या अप्लाई नहीं कर रहा हेड बॉय पोस्ट के लिए, और जो बाकी बच्चे हम नहीं चाहते वो स्कूल को रिप्रेजेंट करें. तो इसको मैंने कहा तो इसने कहा ठीक है, तो स्पीच दो, कैंपेनिंग करो, सब इसने खुद किया.
I feel it's a good idea to send a child to school if the school is comfortable and if they allow you along, because child, if not a school, even a creche, a babysitting, because a child has to be with other kids of his own age. That really
एकेडमिक्स हो जाता है बिकॉज यू हैव फैसिलिटीज़ जो आगे चल के भी हम लोग एकेडमिक्स अगर लगे कि बच्चा कर रहा है तो यू कैन डू. मेरा मेन इंटेंशन गोइंग टू स्कूल वॉज टू गेट दैट him to mingle with his age old people, him to understand how other children behave, how other children play, how do you talk to teachers, taking permission, दूसरे बच्चों के साथ झगड़ा करना,
सोशल
सोशल और इवन छोटी छोटी चीज़ें, खुद के लिए खड़ा रहना, खुद की चीज़ों का ख्याल रखना. बिकॉज घर में तो आई डेंट हैव अनदर चाइल्ड, नो सिबलिंग, सो ही वॉज द किंग. So that was the main focus for me to send him to school. But academics thankfully was happening because we were putting in all our efforts into therapy, which was helping him to focus, which was helping him to do all that academically.
So गाड़ी चलते जा
रही थी. The teachers were happy. And secondly, because वो there was never transparency between what happened in school और उस थेरेपी के बीच में. सो जब भी कुछ भी स्कूल में होता था हम थेरेपिस्ट से बात करते थे तो उसके लिए कुछ बनता था जो मैं टीचर को जाके मैं हमेशा अपोल, हाँ,
बीच में थे.
बिकॉज वो थेरेपिस्ट स्कूल नहीं आ सकता, ना स्कूल थेरेपिस्ट के बाद. बट देन हमको कुछ छुपाना नहीं चाहिए, ना थेरेपिस्ट के साथ ना टीचर्स को स्कूल में कुछ छुपाना चाहिए. अगर हम वहाँ पे ट्रांसपेरेंसी रखो तो अपने बच्चे के लिए आसान होता है एक्सेप्टिंग थिंग्स, बिकॉज he is easily accepted. So whenever the therapist did small things, like I remember वरुण को एक जगह पे बैठना बहुत मुश्किल था. So स्कूल में बैठना 6 hours at a stretch it was a nightmare. So then the therapist said no, he has to be sitting on the first bench near the teacher and with a buddy partner sitting beside him. He had no chance to walk out and he was sitting for 6 hours. It worked. So we
कुछ करके वो होता.
If your child can learn with a shadow teacher, sit in the class, focus, pay attention, even if it is with individualized help, I would still encourage that. I have worked with so many kids who all started with a shadow teacher. They all had their shadow teacher all the time with them, and gradually they learned to follow instructions. They learned to sit at one place. They learned to follow instructions by the teacher when it was given to a group to the entire group and not just individually to the child. So I feel most of the kids gain those skills, and we are very clear, these parents who took admission to these schools were very clear. They communicated it to the teachers and to the school that there is a difficulty, and the sole reason why they want the child to be in that school is so that the child gets opportunities to participate in activities that other kids of his age would be participating in. They make it very clear to the school that their aim is not that he is able to learn academics at the pace at which other kids are learning. They're very clear that they do not want to compare their child with any other child who is neurotypically developing. What I'm trying to only communicate is that if I have my goals very clear, and if I know that my child is going to learn, even if it is to begin with a shadow, then it's a great idea to start with regular school.
कहा गया था पहले ही कि अर्नव नॉर्मल स्कूल नहीं जाएगा, तो somehow as a mother मुझे लगा कि नहीं, मुझे उसको एक मौका तो देना चाहिए, एक ट्राई करके देख लेते हैं, होगा तो ठीक है, नहीं होगा तो हमने उसको प्री स्कूल में डाला. ऑब्वियसली वो रेडी नहीं था, तो दो प्री स्कूल से हमें बोल दिया कि आप लोग अभी निकल जाओ. फिर उसका इतना रोना रहता था, तो बहुत सारे थेरेपिस्ट के पास भी हमें जाना बंद करना पड़ा. तो बाद में जब कोई एक ऐसा प्री स्कूल मिला जहाँ मुझे बैठने दिया, तब जाके वो एटलीस्ट हैंडल हो सका, क्योंकि जाहिर था कि ही नीडेड अ शैडो टीचर. और मेरे टाइम पे तभी जब अर्नव छोटा था, उस समय शैडो टीचर्स भी उतना अलाउ नहीं करते थे और पेरेंट्स को तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं अलाउ करते थे. तो मैं रेडी थी बैठने के लिए बेटे के साथ, तो उन लोग ने फिर भी नहीं अलाउ किया. तो ये जो एक स्कूल था वहाँ पे उन लोग ने अलाउ किया. तो वहाँ पे जाके हमें ये भी पता चला, क्योंकि वहाँ जाने के बाद वो लोग नर्सरी राइम्स ये सब कराते थे और मैं हमेशा उसको गा के सुनाती थी. फिर एक ऐसे दिन हुआ कि मैं नर्सरी राइम्स गा रही थी और ही फिल्ड इन द गैप्स. तो हमें लगा ओ माय गॉड कि ये इट हेल्प्ड, क्योंकि एक वहाँ जाके हमें पता चला कि उसने सारे नर्सरी राइम्स पिकअप कर लिए थे और फिर धीरे धीरे वो उसने फिल अप द ब्लैंक्स और फिर खुद से मेरे पीछे पीछे बोलने लगा। पर वहीं थेरेपिस्ट के पास नहीं, मतलब जब ना कर दिया था और प्री स्कूल्स भी जब ना कर दिए थे, तभी मुझे एकदम वी हैड रीच्ड रॉक बॉटम, तभी कुछ समझ में ही नहीं आ रहा था, पर उससे भी हम बाहर निकले। सो दैट वाज
12th में ये दोबारा सीनियर हेड बॉय बना, तो तब मुझे लगा कि नहीं, ये लड़के में इन्होंने देखा है लीडरशिप क्वालिटीज, और मॉक यूएन में बेस्ट डेलीगेट, इसकी लैंग्वेज जो मैं बताऊं, जिब्रिश बच्चा, ही इज द बेस्ट ओरेटर, बेस्ट डिबेटर, एंड जो इसकी स्ट्रेंथ थी उसी को पकड़ के हम चले। एंड मुझे पढ़ाई का नहीं था, बट हिज एबिलिटी टू टॉक, तो हम बहुत पढ़ते थे, बुक्स पढ़ते थे, बहुत हम ट्रिप्स करते थे, म्यूजियम्स, आर्ट गैलरी सेंटर्स इन द यूएस, और ये लड़का ना स्पॉन्ज की तरह एब्जॉर्ब। सो आई थिंक बच्चे में पोटेंशियल था, ही इज अ हाई आईक्यू चाइल्ड, तो जितना हम भरते गए उतना ये एब्जॉर्ब करता गया। बाकी सोशल एटिकेट वो सब चीजें समझा, एक बड़ा बच्चा भी होना, मॉडल होना, एंड ये सब सिचुएशन, सो मैं सिचुएशंस क्रिएट करती थी जहाँ पे ऐसा होगा तो तुम क्या करोगे, ये प्रॉब्लम आएगी तो तुम क्या करोगे, नीचे भेज देना इसको सामान लाने के लिए, फिर धीरे धीरे छुट्टा वापस लेना है, अपना कैसे करे। आज ये है, आपने पूछा कि ये क्या कर रहा है, टुडे ही इज इन डूइंग लिबरल आर्ट्स इन पूना, तो ही इज इन फ्लेम यूनिवर्सिटी, और वो यूनिवर्सिटी में जब अप्लाई कर रहा था, ही वांटेड टू डू ओनली लिबरल आर्ट्स, हमने काफी जगह सोचा था अप्लाई करेंगे, मगर ये यूनिवर्सिटी ने उसको 100% एकेडमिक स्कॉलरशिप दी, तो इसने कहा मुझे और कहीं जाना ही नहीं है।
बहुत सारे बच्चे 2 साल की उम्र में प्ले स्कूल जाते हैं, करण वैसे गया था, लेकिन फिर किसी ने मुझे 4-6 महीने के अंदर ही ये स्पेशल स्कूल के बारे में बताया, और उनकी फ़िलासफ़ी भी सुनने में उस समय बहुत अच्छी लग रही थी कि कोई थेरेपी नहीं, कोई स्पेशल ट्रीटमेंट नहीं, गिव देम लॉट्स ऑफ एक्सपोजर एंड दे लर्न फ्रॉम द एनवायरनमेंट एंड ऑल दैट। तो करण वहाँ गया, तो he started pretty early in the special school, around 3 years of age, and he was there for 7 years, Reena, and then और मैं करती रही, वो लोग जो कहते थे ना, मैं वो करती गई, करण को हर मॉल लेके जाना, हर कुछ किया, एंड इट हैज़ रियली हेल्प, लाइक लॉट्स ऑफ थिंग्स हेल्प, बट उसकी सेंसरी नीड्स को उसने मतलब अटेंड नहीं किया गया, और फिर उसको वो 10 साल की उम्र में बहुत सारे बिहेवियर्स आए, और then that was the time when people gave up on him. So then I realized the need of therapy.
Reena, basically the right of children to free and compulsory education is also known as the Right to Education Act. Now, what this act typically does is it is an act which empowers the state government and the local bodies to provide free and compulsory education to children between the age of 6 to 14. Okay. Now, when we say free, that means that no child should be deprived for, to education for want of payment of huge fees, and it should be made compulsory because everyone has the right to learn. Now, special needs, special kids have special provisions under the Act. For example, schools have to have 25% reservation of seats to enable.
I'm sorry I'm interrupting, but I've heard of schools where they have an admission form where it says special needs, and if you put a tick there, you're not allowed admission.
Then if that is the case, then you can actually approach the relevant authorities and for example the state board, and actually complain against the school, because there is a need for a special reservation for these kids.
And what if the school says that we are not equipped to handle special kids?
Every school has to make it mandatory to have a special teacher to address these special needs.
By law?
Yes. Okay. So that is why you can have these kids in schools, because the Act also provides for basically home learning, but that restricts the ability of the child to grow in a normal environment.
Yes.
And that is the reason why these schools are now encouraging children to join and live like normal kids and be amongst kids of their same age so that they can grow.
Okay. So Right to Education Act is for people who are from a lower socioeconomic state also and for kids who have
Yes.
special needs also.
Yes.
It's
So
for both.
basically, it gives a provision because you have people from the lower strata of the economy who also cannot afford it. So this is an act basically enacted for all children between the age of 6 to 14.
So this 25% covers both of them, as in
25% of the reservation is basically for disadvantaged groups, and this would also include people who have special needs.
So is there a proportion, which means, you know what I'm trying to ask
Yeah,
you is
so
it
there is
like-
no distinct proportion, but there is a mandate by the government wherein they need to give this special category of kids admission, and they cannot deny them those rights.
Okay. And even if the person cannot pay, then what do they do in such
If
a
they
case?
cannot pay, then it says free and compulsory education. So when it says free, that means they have a right to learn, and then if there is any issue with fees, then of course the school will have to take care of those. They cannot be deprived of education just because they can't afford it, and that's exactly why the act has been enacted. Because then the state government looks after such needs.
I feel it's okay to shift to a special school because your child gets more help there. Okay, in a regular school your child does not get any special help, and if your child is capable of learning, he will be taught even there. So as you know, all special schools today have an individualized education program. There's an IEP depending upon the child's capabilities. So if your child is capable, they will teach him there too. Whereas we could not even today we don't get him to write anything. It is better to be realistic. Accept that. And yes, try very hard if your child is capable. Undoubtedly, I feel if your child is capable, try very hard. If your child does cope up, go back to a regular school. But then keeping him in an environment where his self-esteem is going to go down because other children are going to be far ahead, how does that help? It would not help at all. So, we had also realized by that time that it's not going to help keeping him in a regular school. So we took him out quite happily at that time. I wouldn't say happily, but willingly.
और आपके हिसाब से रिसोर्स रूम में स्पेशल एजुकेटर, ऑक्यूपेशनल थेरेपिस्ट, स्पीच थेरेपिस्ट, ये सब होते हैं
जी।
बेसिकली रिसोर्स रूम जो मुझे समझा है वो ये है जो बच्चों को, जो नॉर्मली बच्चे पढ़ रहे हैं और अगर ये नहीं पढ़ पा रहे तो उनको हेल्प करने के लिए है ताकि वो एक रेगुलर स्कूल में बाकी बच्चों के साथ पढ़ सके।
जी, वो भी है।
मैंने सही समझा जो
बिल्कुल सही है।
ओके।
और ऑक्यूपेशनल थेरेपिस्ट, स्पीच थेरेपिस्ट कभी विजिटिंग फैकल्टी होती है, उन लोग रोज़ाना वहाँ नहीं रहते हैं मोस्ट स्कूल्स में, लेकिन रेमीडियल एजुकेटर और स्पेशल एजुकेटर्स ज़्यादा करके रोज़ आते हैं 5 days a week।
ओके। और जैसे दूसरी बात आपने कही कि बच्चा नहीं कर पा रहा है तो उसको छोटा जो करिकुलम नीचे का है वो दिया जाएगा, तो ये हर स्कूल अलाउ करता है? और अगर पेरेंट को चाहिए होगा तो कैसे करे? बिकॉज कई सारे मैं जानती हूँ जिनको नीचे का करिकुलम नहीं दिया जाता है, तो ये कैसे हर स्कूल में मिलता है या नहीं मिलता है?
अभी क्या है कि अपना गवर्नमेंट तो कोशिश कर रही है हर स्कूल में ऐसे कंपलसरी बनाने के लिए, लेकिन हर स्कूल अभी तक अडॉप्ट नहीं कर पा रही है। डिफ़िकल्टीज़ तो है क्योंकि एम्प्लॉयमेंट की डिफ़िकल्टीज़, उनको स्पेशल एजुकेटर मिलता नहीं है, कोई अच्छा हेल्प नहीं मिलता है, या तो ये सर्विसेज इंक्लूड करके महंगा हो जाता है, स्पेस का प्रॉब्लम है, ये सब प्रॉब्लम्स है। तो स्कूल को बड़ा सोच के फिर चालू करना होता है, और एक बार जब चालू होता है तो आप बीच में बंद नहीं कर सकते। इसके लिए ये बहुत सारे स्कूल्स ने अडॉप्ट किया है और अभी चालू है बाकी के स्कूल्स में भी ये सब फैसिलिटीज़ देने का चालू हो रहा है, लेकिन अभी तक सारे स्कूल्स में नहीं है।
बट ये बहुत हेल्पफुल होगा कि जो बच्चा नहीं कर पा रहा है उनको स्कूल में ही हेल्प मिल जाए, और अगर नहीं तो लोअर करिकुलम उनको सिखाया जाए।
बिल्कुल।
सो आई थिंक दैट्स गुड,
इट्स अ वेरी गुड सिस्टम सो दैट वी कैन इंक्लूड एवरी एंड ईच चाइल्ड हु हैज़ अ राइट टू be educated.
Wonderful. And every child has the right to get educated,
Absolutely.
right?
I have worked with so many schools and so many students, and I have seen the willingness, how much the schools really want the kids to be included. And inclusion is a big part of many schools. They just don't know how to make it happen. And that's when they seek the assistance of an occupational therapist or a special educator who can guide them, or a counselor for that matter.
Whether a student goes to CBSE, ISC or open schooling, whether the student is neurotypical or is with a diagnosis, as parents, we must also focus on that huge chunk of soft skills, which are so essential, right, for living a happy, productive, and useful life. So whether he is doing regular schooling or open schooling, whether he or she is not doing schooling, I think from a very early age we should start focusing on those skills which we all know as adults hold such an importance for us to live a fruitful life. It's nothing to do with an academic qualification. Really, that helps. Of course, that really helps. If you're doing a professional qualification, you have to have done an engineering degree. You have to have gone through medicine. You have to have done your, the so-called coding. You have to have studied psychology or all the subjects. But those form just one part, right, of what we are going to be doing for the rest of our lives productively as adults. That's what the skilling campaign, the skilling council is also working towards, just skilling and versus just studying. So we need to keep that in mind.
My recommendation is two things. One is he luckily went to a Montessori school where he could have a lot of sensorial exploration. But suppose he was in a regular preschool where they go the ABC way, where they go the academic way, I think it would have been very difficult for him. He did not have the skills to cope up with that.
So अभी उसने अपनी ग्रेजुएशन खत्म करी है, बीएससी करी है केमिस्ट्री में. तो एक्चुअली हम भी कॉन्वोकेशन के लिए गए थे, तो हमने भी सोचा नहीं था इतना सब होगा. तो हम तो नॉर्मल सेरेमनी के लिए गए थे, बट हाँ प्रेस थी, आई डोंट नो. तो फिर वो एक न्यूज़पेपर में आया, तो एक से दूसरे से तीसरे, आई डोंट नो, आता गया. बट
और सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट बात जो मेरे को आपने बताई वो ये थी कि उसने बीएससी केमिस्ट्री में की, जो उसने पहले केमिस्ट्री उसका सब्जेक्ट था ही नहीं ना.
हाँ, 11th और 12th में उसके पास केमिस्ट्री नहीं थी, बिकॉज उसने ए लेवल्स करा है जो कि कैम्ब्रिज बोर्ड का है, जो कि 12th ग्रेड के बराबर है. लेकिन ए लेवल्स में 12th ग्रेड में खाली 2 या 3 सब्जेक्ट्स होते हैं. तो उसके पास फिजिक्स और मैथ्स था, केमिस्ट्री नहीं थी 11th और 12th में. उसके बाद जब हम इंडियन बोर्ड में गए, तो इंडियन बोर्ड में फिजिक्स, केमिस्ट्री और मैथ्स तीनों चाहिए होते हैं. तो हमारे पास चॉइस नहीं थी, क्योंकि इसको फॉरेन कंट्री तो भेज नहीं सकते, इधर ही एनरोल करना था. तो हमने सोचा जो होगा देखेंगे. 10th तक केमिस्ट्री करी है, उसके बाद जो होगा देखेंगे. तो फिर हमने उसको कॉलेज में एनरोल किया. फर्स्ट ईयर में उसने बोला वो फिजिक्स में ग्रेजुएशन करेगी. सेकेंड ईयर में जाके बोला नहीं, मुझे स्टैट्स करना है. और जब तक थर्ड ईयर में पहुंची, बोलती है नहीं, मैं केमिस्ट्री में फिनिश करूंगी ग्रेजुएशन. तो फिर एंड में उसने केमिस्ट्री में ग्रेजुएशन करी, पता नहीं कैसे.
वो नॉर्मल लाइफ जीनी नहीं है, उसको सोसाइटी के साथ कैसे जिया जाए वो सिखाना वाज द मेन इंटेंशन. सो और एकेडमिक्स ग्रेजुअली होता गया, क्योंकि जैसे वरुण धीरे धीरे बढ़ने लगा, स्कूल में भी एक्सेप्टेड था, बिकॉज एवरीबडी वाज ओके विथ हिम, बिकॉज बिहेवियर इश्यूज वर बीइंग हैंडल्ड. छोटा मोटा यहाँ पे कुछ होता था, सो द टीचर्स को पता था कि मैं हूँ और थेरेपी के लिए जा रहा है. सो ग्रेजुअली आई थिंक मुझे याद है कुछ लेटर इंटरेक्शंस भी होने लगे थे. सो दैट वाज हैपनिंग. सो दे स्कूल की तरफ से भी एक शांति की दे समबडी हु इज़ वर्किंग ऑन हिम. और हम लोग ने बच्चे को पूरी तरह स्कूल के ऊपर छोड़ नहीं दिया है. एंड द पेरेंट ऑल्सो इज़ टेकिंग इक्वल एफर्ट्स. देन जाके वरुण ने, आई रिमेंबर सडनली 8th में था, तो बोला अब 9 के बाद 10th करूँगा, 10th के बाद कॉलेज, और कॉलेज के बाद इंजीनियरिंग करूँगा. एंड आई वाज लाइक इंजीनियरिंग क्यों करेगा? तो ही वाज लाइक शेफ़ बनना है. एंड आई वाज लाइक इंजीनियरिंग. तो देन आई रियलाइज, बिकॉज ही इज़ अ वेरी गुड ऑब्जर्वर, उसने रियलाइज़ किया कि इंजीनियरिंग के एड्स है, तो मुझे इंजीनियरिंग करके फिर शेफ़ बनना है. दैट इज़ वेयर आई डिसाइडेड कि ओके स्कूलिंग हो रही है, 8th स्टैंडर्ड तक बिहेवियरल सब कुछ सेटल हो रहा है, तो why do I still stick to that normal exactly
becoming a chef?
Yeah. And secondly also he loved to sing, he loved to dance, he loved to run, cook. That was there.
My God, I still remember the sandesh.
Pulao, the sandesh. I think he had brought that for you.
It
Yes,
was,
yes.
yeah.
So I stopped schooling over there. He was previously in the IGCSE board. The board, why? Because the school was close to my house. 10 मिनट आना जाना, बाकी कोई खास लगाव नहीं था मुझे स्कूल का बोर्ड के साथ. So I dropped school and I started the open schooling. I did the NIOS. Why? Because I had pace, I had time to do so many things. Where his singing started, where now he goes on stage and performs for various people's. You just have to call him and he's there on stage to sing. Dance kar raha tha, and side by side I remember doing a vocational course for him from a college in Goregaon. So he stood third in the college, and that was like, ki yes, I let him be what he wanted to be, because he wanted to be a chef. And if I would have forced him to be something else, I don't know how much of will he would have put into doing whatever he's doing. And he's enjoying his process, getting ready, and it's amazing to see him in his uniform, because even now he's finished his 10th, he's finished his 12th from the NIOS board. But with that, we've also pursuing his he did his 1 year full course with cookery, baking, cooking and catering. And then the college was so happy with him, so now they've taken him again into BSc, first year BSc with hospitality. And I never imagined.
हमारी गायनेक है जो अभी होली स्पिरिट की मेडिकल डायरेक्टर है, डॉक्टर सुजन. तो जब बच्चे दोनों पैदा हुए थे, जस्ट बाहर आए थे ऑपरेशन थिएटर से, एंड दे वर क्रैंकी और रो रहे थे, और मैं तो 5 मिनट में इरिटेट हो गया था. तो मैंने उसको पूछा था कि ये कब बंद होगा. उसने बोला आपकी जिंदगी में तो नहीं होगा. तो जब तक है तब तक ये तो बंद नहीं होगा. सो आई डोंट थिंक दिस एवर स्टॉप्स. एक प्रॉब्लम खत्म होता दूसरा शुरू होता, एक चैलेंज खत्म होता दूसरा चैलेंज.
अभी उसका ग्रेजुएशन हो गया, लेकिन आगे अब उसको फाइनेंशियली इंडिपेंडेंट भी करना है, बाकी लाइफ स्किल्स भी सिखाने हैं, तो यहाँ तो खत्म नहीं होता ना.
थेरेपी भले आप स्ट्रक्चर थेरेपी बंद करो, पर घर पे तो थेरेपी चालू ही है.
What we want to focus on is building on skills, not just getting a certificate. So I hope this journey helps you. It helps you to feel inspired. Share your views, share your comments. I would love to know your views too. Before you go, I wanted to help you, to help your child improve faster. Here are 4 things that you can do. 1, you can subscribe to my channel so that whatever tips, strategies, insights, whatever I share, they come to you as notifications into your inbox and you are updated on a weekly basis. 2, you can buy my book, Looking Beyond Labels, Becoming a Mindful Parent. It is available on Amazon. It's a guidebook. It will guide you on really how to help you to help your child better. 3, I've done a lot of master classes which are all available as recordings on my website khushi.net.in/online-events. You will be able to refer to a lot of courses related to sleep, toilet and potty training, sensory diet, oral motor challenges, emotional wellness, and so many of those. And then number 4 would be we can meet and I can guide you. We can meet weekly. I meet parents weekly for some of my courses, which you can find on khushi.net.in/events. And we can meet weekly. You get to ask me your questions. I share what to do, how to help, and it's all done in a group setup. It's an amazing deep dive trying to understand your child. And I'm sure it transforms your perspective. It transforms the way you work with your child. And these are the 4 things that I feel would really help you. Thank you.